In our hyper-connected modern era, we tend to view the instantaneous flow of global data as a uniquely recent triumph of the digital age. We look to the skies, marveling at satellite constellations and wireless frequencies that link continents in fractions of a second. Yet, the true spine of global communication remains exactly where it was placed over a century and a half ago, anchored in the freezing, pitch-black abyss of the ocean floor. Long before fiber-optic cables or cellular networks existed, a massive, quiet revolution was fought in the depths of the Atlantic. The creation of the deep-sea telegraph network in the mid-19th century was not merely an engineering feat equivalent to the Apollo moon landings. It was the birth of the world's first industrial information monopoly. For a mature audience tracking the modern intersections of infrastructure and national sovereignty, understanding this forgotten Victorian achievement reveals that the rules of global power and economic espionage were written long ago in the deep ocean mud. To understand the sheer audacity of this enterprise, one must look at the world of the late 1850s, an era when information could move no faster than a steamship or a locomotive. A message sent from Washington to London took a minimum of 10 days to cross the Atlantic, meaning that international markets, diplomatic crises, and military deployments operated on a massive time delay. The concept of laying a continuous copper wire across 2,000 miles of uncharted ocean shelf, dropping down to depths of over 2 miles, was widely dismissed by the scientific establishment as a physical impossibility. The hydrostatic pressure alone was calculated to crush ordinary insulating materials, while the immense distance threatened to degrade the electrical signal into unreadable static. It required the stubborn financial backing of American industrialist Cyrus Field and the brilliant mathematical insights of a young William Thomson, later known as Lord Kelvin, to unlock the problem. They discovered that by insulating copper wiring with gutta percha, a unique latex sap harvested from trees in Malaysia, and utilizing hypersensitive marine galvanometers, a signal could survive the journey through the absolute dark of the sea. When the first successful transatlantic cable was finally completed in August of 1858, the psychological impact on global society was instantaneous, but the true transformation was financial. The initial message, a letter of congratulation from Queen Victoria to President James Buchanan, took over 16 hours to transmit, yet it signaled the immediate synchronization of the London and New York stock exchanges. Suddenly, the price of cotton, wheat, and corporate bonds could be adjusted in real time. This synchronization gave an unimaginable advantage to the financial elite who controlled access to the cable terminals. It effectively created the first real-time global marketplace, allowing capital to flight across borders instantly in response to geopolitical shifts. However, these early cables were fragile, frequently snapping under the strain of underwater landslides or falling victim to manufacturing defects. The industrial race to build more resilient, heavily armored cables quickly turned into a cutthroat corporate arena, dominated by massive monopolies that charged exorbitant rates, often equivalent to several weeks of an average worker's wages for a single word. As the network expanded into a global web, wrapping around the Cape of Good Hope, stretching across the Indian Ocean, and linking the far reaches of the British Empire, it ceased to be a mere commercial luxury and became the ultimate instrument of imperial statecraft. By the turn of the 20th century, Great Britain had established what was known as the All-Red Line, a network of submarine telegraph cables that landed exclusively on British-controlled territory. This was a masterclass in geopolitical strategy. It meant that in the event of an international conflict, the British Admiralty could communicate with its global naval fleets instantly, while simultaneously monitoring, censoring, or completely cutting the communications of rival nations. The strategic value of this deep-sea monopoly became starkly evident during the opening hours of the First World War. Before the public even realized a global war had begun, a British cable-laying ship silently severed Germany's underwater telegraph lines in the English Channel, completely isolating Berlin from the Western Hemisphere and forcing them to rely on wireless transmissions that were easily intercepted and decrypted. This historical blueprint is precisely why the deep-sea infrastructure of the past shares such a profound lineage with the security challenges we face today. The Victorian telegraph cables have since been replaced by thousands of miles of high-capacity, fiber-optic glass strands that carry over 95% of all transcontinental internet traffic. The geographic choke points remain virtually unchanged. The same narrow straits and shallow coastal shelves that were vulnerable to anchors and sabotage in the 19th century are the exact points where modern data streams are vulnerable to surveillance and disruption. Today's tech conglomerates and sovereign superpowers are engaged in a quiet, high-stakes struggle that mirrors the corporate maneuvers of Cyrus Field and his contemporaries. Whoever controls the physical pathways of the ocean floor ultimately dictates the flow of human knowledge, financial stability, and military command. As we look back at the monumental effort required to conquer the deep sea with a simple copper wire, we realize that we are not living in a completely new digital reality, but rather navigating the advanced stages of an infrastructure race that began over 160 years ago.